Moving now to the Blessed in Paradise, we see that in Canto 7, the reader encounters Dante having laid before him, by Beatrice, an explanation of the means of humanity's salvation, how divine wisdom took the path most excellent. On the heels of this, and appropriately so, Beatrice offers an insight regarding the resurrection of the body and its fittingness for human nature. As the entire canto has the nature of the human person as a major motif, it is of real note to see the canto close with a focus on what is close to the culminating moment of a person's life, his resurrection. About midway through the canto, Beatrice explains that, regarding God's creative action, quote, "Whatever is uttered by its direct expression, thereafter is eternal. His seal once stamped, nothing can ever wipe out the impression." End quote. This provides some background information for Beatrice's later explicit instruction regarding the resurrection. In this little bit, Beatrice is trying to alleviate Dante's unspoken concern over how man might last eternally, in that he is created. Will he not decay irrevocably, as all else that is material does? We can understand implicitly that Dante has been considering how the objects of creation, being fashioned out of the elements of nature, which to him would have been understood as fire, air, earth, and water, and influenced and guided by the heavens, all decay because, as Beatrice explains, they take their form from powers that had themselves to be created. Created was the matter they contain. Created, too, was the informing power of the stars that circle them in heaven's main. In a sense, then, though created by God, they are so indirectly. Now looking at humanity, Beatrice explains that such is not the case for man, that, quote, "the supreme beneficence inspires your life directly, filling it with love of what had made it, so that it desires that love forever. And from this you may infer the sure proof of your resurrection, if you once more consider in what way man's flesh was given being like no other, when he made our first father and first mother." So there is much regarding Dante's anthropology in this excerpt. Yet for the purpose of this paper, it is of interest that because the type of creation the first man and woman were fashioned from involved the direct action of God in both body and soul, then it is of course the case, as had been established earlier by Beatrice, that due to their being directly created, human beings would last eternally, even down to their body, which was in its origin created by the direct action of God. I believe another inference is present in this explanation, and it goes back to the first half of the passage, where Beatrice explains that in his creation of man, God also inspires within this creation a love of its creator, and that being part of the nature of man, he desires it eternally. So could it not be inferred that another proof, perhaps not Beatrice's sure proof, for the resurrection is our desire for the eternal, understood as a yearning for the unending bliss and joy that emanates from the love of God? That, being in our nature, this love for and of God, and the desire to receive such love, as all interpersonal love is relational, in its interminable manner, we have a strong hint that we are meant for the eternal, for the unending. And proceeding from the understanding that both body and soul are requisite for a fully integrated person, it should follow that if the person is made for the eternal, so would his body. Continuing through Paradise, Dante gains greater insight into the resurrection of the body when, in Canto 14, Beatrice anticipates a question being molded in the mind of our pilgrim. Mind you, at this point we are encountering the souls of the blessed, that, not assuming the vestige of an aerial body, appear as rays of light. The canto begins as Aquinas has ceased speaking. The question that Dante has not yet even become aware of in his person, which is a fascinating thought in itself, has to do with the glory and radiance the souls of the blessed have, and how such luminosity will interact with the resurrected body. There is so much here. How does the glory of heaven and the body of earth, now the body of heaven, exist together? Can the eyes of the body handle the glory of the heavens? Will this glory of the spark-like soul have to diminish in order to accommodate the body's weakness? Before getting to our answer, it is enlivening to see how excitedly the blessed respond to a question of the resurrection of the body even being asked. They're so excited that they whirl about in their pattern of motion in an almost unfrivolous giddiness. We hear that at the question being vocalized, the sacred circles showed yet greater joy in their dance and in their heavenly harmony. Now looking to the answer to Dante's formerly hidden question, it is Solomon that speaks up. making it known that so long, as the feast of paradise shall be, so long shall our love's bliss shine forth from us. So the glory stays, it's not going anywhere. What then of the body risen from the tomb? Solomon continues, when our flesh, made glorious at the judgment seat, dresses us once again, then shall our persons become more pleasing, in being more complete. Okay, so here we revisit a topic, in reality, visited in hell. The resuming of the body brings about the completion of the person, and for the blessed, this brings about greater satisfaction and joy. And further, we hear that the body will be made glorious by an act of the divine judge. And, being more perfected in person, the blessed will be increased in their ability to perceive and enjoy the divine beauty. The person, in a real way, will become even more glorious. Solomon continues, thereby it follows, the vision shall increase. Increase the ardor that the vision kindles. Increase the ray its inner fires release. But as a coal in giving off its fire, outshines it by its living incandescence, its form remaining visible and entire, so shall this radiance that wraps us round be outshone in appearance by the flesh that lies this long day beneath the ground. Solomon closes by informing Dante that the organs of the body will be strengthened to deal with this new effulgence, those organs, that is, that, shall give increase of delight. Upon Solomon's answer, the souls again rejoice greatly, shouting, Amen! Their quickness of chorus revealing, how much they yearn to wear their flesh again, And not just for themselves, but for all those loved ones the blessed held dear, who too are numbered among the blessed. Why this might be can be gleaned from our scene of Statius and Virgil in Purgatory. Their love being what it was, it could not be expressed through the material, through the body, though it clearly impelled Statius to do so, though at that moment it was impossible. We can see from this that the resumption of the bodiliness of the blessed would then aid the further expression of charity and communion. To sum up, I think we see here a number of reasons, both stated and embedded, the blessed so desire reunion with their bodies. The first is that it is just proper and fitting, that the person being what it is, it should have body. This reintegration then will lead to greater pleasure and joy, and not just individually, but communally as well. Moving along further, the resumption of flesh also provides an eternal symbol of Christ's conquering of sin, death, and decay. And further, being reunited with body for all of eternity likens one evermore to the new Adam, who maintains the body which brought about man's salvation and man's glorification.